how I was first introduced to the movie was I saw it on Netflix, and I was like, huh, doesn't my dad like this movie? And my dad was like, oh yeah, I do. Let's watch that together. So we watched it, and it was a theatrical, right?
Yeah.
And it is so well paced. It's so well done. Like, it's not the best film of all time. It's one of my personal favorites, though. It has like a great soundtrack. It's got some pretty cool performances. It has a good vibe to it. But it's paced perfectly. I don't think it would benefit in any way from a director's cut, right?
Yeah.
But for the sake of the argument, I watched the director's cut, you know? And I was like, all right, we saw it in theaters, it was the director's cut, and I was like, okay, let's give this a shot. You know, what do they add? And then I realized it doesn't add anything. All
Really?
it adds is just this random comic book section that talks about the Vikings and 300, if I'm not mistaken, and how they were doing like a fruitless fight, but they fought anyway. And I'm like, what the fuck does this have to do with it? And that's how the movie opens.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, okay, that was weird. Let's watch the film. And once the film starts going, during random points in the film, with no real rhyme or reason, it just randomly has comic book transitions.
What?
And that's all that's added. That's all that's fucking added. I was like, why is this? This is not a director's cut. You just threw in random edits that don't make any sense.
So like the Star Wars thing.
Yeah, and it's just distracting. It's not even fucking good. It makes no sense to do it.
So there is a thing about that, apparently.
What?
Apparently it was supposed to be like that in the original film.
But they couldn't afford
They
it.
didn't have the budget.
But it's so jarring and fucking out of nowhere, and I don't think it belongs in the film. And it gets in the way of the pacing of the film.
So what you're saying is don't buy the director's cut.
Fuck no. And you know what's the worst part?
What?
For the longest time, the only way you could get the original theatrical was on an old, like, DVD when it first came out.
The Bare Bones one?
Yep. And then it came out digitally. And digitally you could get it in the theatrical, and you can watch it on theatrical on streaming services. But on Blu-ray, you can only get the director's cut, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw recently that they put out the steelbook that FYE had of it a long time ago, and it includes the theatrical, and I was like, oh my god. Finally, I get to get a Blu-ray of this movie in the theatrical. Everything's right with the world. And then I start looking on Blu-ray.com on the forums. These motherfuckers made the Blu-ray the director's cut, and they made it a DVD that was just a theatrical. And I fucking hate them. I'm so angry.
That sucks.
I don't get justice with this. I no matter what, I don't get this movie as theatrical on Blu-ray.
That's just an issue because I know a lot of people are so used to the theatrical they don't care for the director's cut.
The director's cut literally adds nothing to the film. It sucks.